We are live for 5 seconds now.
Nice.
I am welcoming to our Thursday night interview a friend of mine and an acquaintance that we were kind of brought together by one Brad Swanson, if I remember correctly. Brad
Yeah.
is a local guy here in Vernon who has been involved in the community a lot. He started his own school, an outdoor school, and does a lot of camps and promotions. And anyways, kind of the same philosophy with a lot of things. And I remember Brad saying to me, he's like, Jason, I think you and Mike would get along just great. I got to hook you guys up one day. And anyways, he was right. We do get along great. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. It's a huge favor to the group here, and it's a huge favor to me. And I think it's awesome that you're here with us.
Jason, I'm so grateful to be here. This is really cool, man. I love what you're doing.
Awesome. I have talked within the group. I mean, like I told you about the group. The group is really diverse. We have people from really all four corners of North America, which is super cool. And I know you're more well known here, in where you're from and where I'm from. So you're a little bit more celebrity around here. But for those of you who maybe haven't seen the story or weren't able to watch the video, can you just tell us maybe a little bit where you're from? What you were doing as a kid and what kind of brought you, to the stage, I guess is a right way to put it.
Thank you again. I grew up in Vernon, British Columbia, Canada, and Vernon, BC is an outdoor playground. It's a pretty phenomenal place to grow up. And I tried every sport when I was young. I'm a skier, and I grew up into freestyle skiing as a competitor, and then I went to coach. Funnily, as a kid, I begged my parents to let me play hockey. And because a lot of my friends were playing hockey, and they basically said, well, we're going to the ski hill, so figure out your own way. And well, I ended up getting ride with them to the ski hill. But I was driven. I wanted to be a hockey player when I was young, but I grew up in skiing, and I took skiing to a fairly high level. I competed across around the province in British Columbia, and then across our big country, Canada. Had decent amount of success on the national level in competition. And then I even tried my luck, I should say, at international contests, doing things like the World Skiing Invitational in Whistler and going down to the US and stuff like that. Like, I was pretty motivated to take on the free skiing competition scene. And my dream of ending up on the podium kind of got cut short. I had a few injuries, which led me when one door closes, you just got to trust another door will open. And the opportunity that sort of reared its head for me was to get into freestyle ski coaching and taking my passion and like skills for skiing and pass them on to the next generation. So I coached at first regional club level, then I coached the provincial team for big air slopestyle and half pipe, and then I moved up to coach national development level for half pipe skiing in Canada. So my job was to coach Canada's top talent pool athletes that were next in line to go on our Olympic team.
Wow, that's pretty prestigious honor. That's a great position to hold.
It was cool. It was a lot of fun. Loved it. Loved skiing more than anything.
Right. What was that process like? Just because I'm such a process-driven guy, like for you to get into that room, to have your name be associated with someone that is going to lead, the next medal wearing Canadians at the Olympics. Like, how did that work for you?
There was a little bit of luck, but my preparation was good. I suppose I was a decent competitor, and I had an athletic career that was conducive to me taking some higher level athletes right off the bat in my ski coaching career. So even at the club level, I was given some high level club athletes to work with. And then moving up to the provincial team, I fortunately skipped a couple rungs on the ladder. Situational, there was the opportunity there, but I got asked to apply for this job based on some of my skill in skiing. I'd also put myself through a university program. So I'd got a degree in business administration while I was ski coaching and competing. So I had some management skill in my back pocket, which is really valuable as a coach. And I got the job coaching the provincial ski team at like 22, or maybe I just turned 23 years old when I got that job. So I was really young in the coaching world too. And again, I only went there so soon because of injuries.
Right.
But yeah, I coached at a fairly high level for 4 years. And
cool.
Yeah, the process, it was a little bit Wild West. Like, freestyle is a new sport. It's not as traditional as hockey is by any means.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty lucky to like slot into the organized sport world in a pretty fun and exciting high performance place. It was really, really special.
No, man. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, being around athletes, high achieving athletes, driven athletes, that, you know, a little tweak here and there, whether it's technical, whether it's mechanical, you know, whether it's mental, like when you see those the light bulbs go off, right? And you find that spark, it's pretty special. So cool. I can relate to that. So when you were actually coaching then, when that Red Bull camp, like that, just to bring us back to that day, like, so Red Bull's there, what turned into that movie that I shared in the group of the accident was obviously not meant to be a movie about the accident, I assume, correct? Like, I never really talked to you about that.
Yeah, it was, we were at a World Cup that morning. So we were skiing half pipe in the morning, and a couple of the athletes that had done really well in training, they went home, but a couple of the athletes that needed a little bit more time on their skis, get comfy, we went and we were skiing away from the half pipe facility. And it was just during a routine trick demonstration. I was doing a trick called a nose butter 720. So for those of you that aren't well versed, the nose butter part is a bit of a variance on the takeoff, but it's 2 spins. So 2 full rotations, taking off forwards and landing forwards. And I flew through the air. Everything felt good. And then on landing, I got uppercutted to the face. And I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I just had this huge impact on my face and tumbling downhill, going like, I'm winded. I can't, like, I was like, oh, like, couldn't barely, I was like, something is wrong, really, really wrong. How did I land on my face? And what happened is I actually landed on my feet, but I landed in some soft, what we call punchy snow, which caused me to pitch forwards onto my head and neck, hence the uppercut, the big impact to my face. And then my feet came up over top of my body like a scorpion's tail. And then I just felt it, this brief popping sensation in my neck. And then nothing. I was like tumbling downhill. I slid to a stop, face down in the snow. My goggles had come down over my nose and mouth, and I couldn't roll over. I couldn't move. I couldn't get up or feel anything below my neck. And then it hit me like, no. A brief but sharp pain in my neck, and then nothing. I just broke my neck. And not only that, I was lying there paralyzed because I couldn't move. And my world came just crashing down.
So when I watched, I mean, we watched that as a family, and I'm sure you've heard countless stories of people who have watched that, and it was just, I mean, it's hard to watch. And when I watched it the first time, I didn't even know you. It's just, as a human being watching it, it's hard to watch. And like so the noises that you were making, right? Like the humanity there, that was more of a mental anguish than it was a pain in that scenario. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I was trying to yell at the top of my lungs, like, I broke my neck. I can't move anything. I can't roll over. And I didn't know at the time, but because where my spine had been damaged, my spinal cord was damaged fairly high up at my 4th and 5th vertebrae down, and I had neurological damage all the way up to sort of C3. And I couldn't breathe fully. I could only take like 2/3 of a breath of air. So I thought I was screaming at the top of my lungs, but my diaphragm just didn't have it in it to really belt it out. And everything went through my head in that moment. Like, your body goes into fight or flight. And I was thinking more clear than I probably ever had. And so I this situation, all the simulations, what had happened and everything, and what was about to happen in my mind, and everything from my God, I was supposed to land that trick. What happened? I want redemption. Um, I just I did a cerebral check because I'd had a lot of concussions before, like up in the double digits, and so I did a sort of mental check, and I thought that was good. So that was the first bit of gratitude I felt. I was like, thank goodness I don't have a head injury right now, because a spinal cord injury and feeling confused would be really hard. And I thought about my parents, like my family. I was like, oh my God, my actions just affected my family gravely. Immediately acknowledged that. And then I thought about talking to a friend of mine who used to be my past ski coach, who had also broken his back before and was already in a wheelchair, unfortunately. And that I needed to talk to him because this was going to be a hard road out. I knew that already. I knew exactly what the risk involved in doing my sport entailed, or like what kind of risk was involved in the sport, I should say. And I went to a place also on my mind with my friend who was holding me in C-spine. He was there, kind of like first responder on scene. I'm lucky I had my friend Colin there, but I was joking around with him. We're lying on the snow, and I'm like, Colin, I'm like, man, I don't even read books. Like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to go back to school. Something's gonna happen. I'm not gonna ski anymore. That's for sure.
This is while you're on the snow. You're making some jokes at the time.
I was like, man, we're gonna like life is gonna be so much different for me from now on. Like, immediately accepted what had happened and thought about what was next. And then
did you acknowledge the cameras rolling? Like, sorry to cut you off there, but like that's just so like that's weird, right? That they're there and like actually got it on camera.
So yeah, the filmer was Colin, and Colin shut off the camera when it happened, but like that wasn't in my mind whatsoever.
Right.
And it's borderline serendipitous that particular shot got captured, because they don't capture everything. And like when you're skiing around with the cameraman, there's, and there was a big group of us, but yeah, pretty devastating at the time for sure. But fortunately I accepted what had happened. Ski patrol got there on site and immediately went to, and because I said to the guys, I'm like, you got to go and get patrol. You got to get the on-hill medic to come and support me. Because I went to, how am I going to get off the mountain? How am I going to get to a hospital? That was next step. And the ski patrol gets there and he shows up on scene, and I'm like, whew, someone's here to help. Okay, good. They'll take care of the situation. And I ended up hearing him go over the radio, and he goes, and in a shaky voice, like, I need support. I need all hands on deck. I need the on-hill physician. I've got a code black. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, you couldn't give me any other color. Code black sounds super serious. And it sure enough, it was like, but he gave me a dire outlook right off the bat. And then, but nonetheless, they did package me up, ship me off to a hospital in Denver, because I was in Colorado skiing at the time. So I went to the closest trauma facility, which was in Denver, and they surgically installed 2 titanium rods and 10 screws in my neck. So I'm surgically fused from my C3 vertebrae to my C7 vertebrae. So I don't have a ton of neck mobility anymore. I can't look up at all, but.
Wow, really? So you can't, nothing up, right?
But they cut away. And so I was paralyzed fully from the neck down. People are seeing me move my arms, and they're thinking, well, I don't look like your typical quadriplegic, but I was paralyzed completely, and my only hope for recovery was that surgery ultimately, because they cut away a lot of the bone from around my spinal cord, because that was ultimately where the majority of the damage was in the cord. And but they gave me a chance, and I spent the next 3 months in the hospital recovering, going through extensive physiotherapy, struggling day in, day out, overcoming immense obstacles, having victories, having massive setbacks. But fortunately, I achieved the goal that I set early on that they told me was never going to happen. They told me I'd never walk again. But in 3 months, I walked out of the hospital using my wheelchair as a trolley to so much elation. It was such an incredible victory. But the hard work wasn't over at that point either. I had a lot to do to get back on my feet and get back to some of the sports that I like to do today. So
you are one of our listeners here says that we're dragging a little bit, and I notice that a little bit. Do you notice when I'm speaking as well or not?
You're quite good, actually.
Okay, you're dragging a bit. I don't know if there's anything you can do on your side, but neither here nor there. I'm hearing 98% of what you're saying, and like just listening to that, I know you kind of fast forward through that, and I don't. I want to spend a little bit of time there because what do you attribute that all these professionals that have seen this maybe before and have dealt with it are saying, hey man, you're never going to walk again, and then here you are 3 months later being able to do that and achieve that. Like, how do you put those pieces together for you?
I've always and I said this, don't let someone else define your possibilities, and especially your impossibilities. If I had believed what the surgeon and spinal specialist had told me back then, I can't say for sure that I wouldn't have recovered, but I know that I wouldn't have recovered with the same sort of at the same rate. So my mindset expedited a lot of my healing. I had good fortune. I was lucky that my injury was recoverable because most spinal cord injuries are not. But it was my mindset and believing that what was possible and setting a goal for myself that was quite lofty that kept me going. And fortunately, when I started getting momentum, which momentum in sport is so big, like celebrating those little wins, even realizing like getting to the end of a practice or the end of a day or the end of a tournament and looking back and being like, okay, well, where were we strong? Even if it didn't go your way that day, what went right? What went well? And I kept sort of building that momentum with a goal in mind. My possibility was that I was going to walk out of the hospital. In fact, my vision was to ski again. So that's a much higher goal than just walking out of the hospital. And when it comes down to it, nobody knows what you're capable of but you. And so in this example, like where the specialist is telling me that my scans don't look good, the injury was so severe, I'm never going to walk. I was like, how do you know? And reality is nobody knows what you're capable of but you. And the thing is, you're capable more than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can do. We've heard that, but you have to believe it. And when you get knocked down or you get hit with an insurmountable challenge, something like that, you have to believe or see yourself overcoming, circumventing, whatever it is, but getting through and growing through whatever is in front of you so that you can achieve the success that's in your future. But you have to see that. And I practiced some visualization and really seeing myself doing that. But I also just had a feeling that I was going to be able to ski again and do some of that stuff. So
I love that, man. No, I love like that. And I'm going to paraphrase it. I can't remember exactly, but like, don't let somebody else define your limits. That's like super powerful because we get caught in that, especially the young athletes that are a part of this channel and the parents, right? That, at 12 or at 10 that, you're not a power play guy or you're not a scorer, or, in the hockey world, like whatever that is, it's like so ludicrous because how does anyone know? And I like how you actually expanded on that because I was going to challenge you a little bit because a lot of times we don't know. Like you said, the only person who knows is ourselves, and I don't think we even know, right? Like it's one of the beliefs that I talk about when I work with my private clients, and I do share some of the stuff in here. Is like that when we actually have that belief that our potential is nearly limitless, or maybe even say limitless, if we can actually ingrain that in our DNA, it opens up so many more options. Right? Instead of being in this box, like this prescribed box, whether it's from your teacher or from your parents or from yourself, right? Like, but it's you do need to believe it, like you said, like it has to be a part of your belief system that this is capable. This is capable of happening. I mean, I really love your words on that. I think that's super powerful stuff.
And I prepared for other options. Like I did the mental prep work. Like much like back to when I was an athlete and a coach, like my goal was to stand on top of the podium, not help other athletes stand on top of the podium. But in the process, I mean, I changed course. And if I didn't get back to skiing on my feet, I knew that there were options. Like I was going to ski in a sit ski one day. And I prepared myself for that. The big thing I really realized is I was going to live a full life regardless of what my physical condition was, that's like hard to get to, especially when your life up till that point is so dependent on on your abilities. My identity was attached to athletics and skiing and sport and coaching, and those things were ripped away. It was really tough, but I made a decision that regardless of what happened physically, mentally, and emotionally, I was going to be a badass. I was going to like take the world by storm, and it was going to be like I was going to live a full life regardless of what happened. And I mean, the lessons that I learned in sport, first as an athlete and then as a coach, have never been more valuable until I was faced with the biggest adversity in my entire life, which was getting better from a spinal cord injury. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and hopefully will ever on my worst enemy. But it was the lesson that I learned from mindset to visualization to hope and trust to the process, like committing to my training and regimented physio and stuff like that. All those things, those combination gave me a unique skill set to thrive when it looked like I was just taking a nosedive. I'm so lucky for sport. We all are.
Yeah. And that's what's so wild about your experience. And yes, you are doing all those things, right? But you are, compromised maybe? Like you're physically less able than you were before, correct?
Yeah, I still can't fully feel my legs, and my dexterity in my hands hasn't come back. My strength in my one hand is not the same, and so I'm on the quadrants. I've got varying levels of stability and strength, and then pain and other neuropathic, like autonomic functional issues in my body that aren't the same, that are affected by a high level C-spine injury. But my injury is virtually invisible to the untrained eye.
Right.
And it's hard. Like if anybody's ever had a concussion before, you'll know what it feels like to have an invisible injury where like sometimes you feel fine, but you still can't do what you love to do. And mentally and emotionally, that's arguably more difficult than the physical. But if you can get through that, you can get through like anything.
No,
if you
100%.
The mental blocks, you can get through the physical. Physical is easy, I think.
One of the things that I've shared with this group a few times is my mindset 101 training, I call it. And the first quadrant of beliefs, I call it my core four. And I'd like to share them with you. And because I just think it's so applicable in, like you said, one of the most severe, egregious situations of like what life can throw at somebody. And the first one I say is that you get to control the meaning of an experience. Like that's within our power, right? So, and I shouldn't say experience. I like to use the word event or circumstances is more, because an event or circumstances happen. Our environment happens. While it's happening, often we lose the sight of the fact that we have the ability to choose what that means to us. And sometimes it's harder than others. Like you, for instance, what you went through, like you had to pick a meaning that made sense, right? That wasn't turning you into a victim, that wasn't turning you into, oh, poor me, and disempowered and not able to take control of things, right? Like, so like, can you speak to that? Like, I feel that that's like so up your alley with how you did it, because like my first thing, you get to choose the meaning. You had to have applied that and used that.
I'm so glad you brought this. I love that, because I broke my neck and I felt bad about it. Definitely. Breaking my neck, I didn't have control over after the fact. I couldn't change it. Feeling bad about it was the only thing that I could control. And there were definitely times where I felt bad about it. But I realized that if ever there's an event that happens, something happens, you didn't make the team you wanted to get on, or you get a penalty and it wasn't your fault. The other guy made a cheap shot, but you got the call. Dwelling on that or feeling bad about it or feeling mad about it doesn't serve you. So you lose the ability for rational, intentional thought when you move to an emotional, irrational state. So for instance, like getting mad in hockey, like frustration, it can make you play the best games of your life if you channel it properly sometimes. But if you let it control what's going on up here, you don't get to enjoy the boost in strength and speed because you've got adrenaline in your body. So when something happens, whatever the event is, objective reasoning is the best option. It doesn't matter if it's something bad or it's something good or whatever. Keeping in control up here is possible, and you've got to decide what the meaning of that event is to you. I love that phrasing and terminology. It's so appropriate, and especially when you're in a fast-paced sport where you don't have a lot of time for misjudgment.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a lot of time to screw up. Like in real time, when you're moving at game pace or like high speed, like there's seconds where you've got to be able to make those decisions and make those calls. So as soon as you throw in emotion that overrides your intentional prefrontal cortex, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, and then I mean, you've even alluded to it, but you didn't maybe use like the terminology that I would use, but like sometimes that adversity, and again, for you, so much more profound than the situation I'm talking about with hockey players, right? Like you said, not making the team, not being on the power play, getting benched in overtime by the coach, not being on the line you want, or whatever these little micro events are that happen, right? And the meaning we put to them, right? Oh, the coach doesn't like me, or, I'm never with the right players, or nobody puts me in the right position to succeed, or whatever this thing is. It puts us on the wrong side of the fence to actually be productive and be proactive and to take control over what is actually going to get us the goal that we want. But if we channel that, if we give it the right meaning, it turns into the biggest gift, and like you said, you wouldn't wish that accident on anyone. And I 100% believe you, but it's changed your life in kind of a positive scenario in a lot of ways because of what you went it through and what you're doing now and who you've met and all those other things, right? Is because of this awful trauma, correct?
Yeah, their opportunity, like every obstacle has an opportunity attached to it. And there are gifts involved with spinal cord injury. There are gifts involved in trauma. You have to look for them. You have to be open to them. But there are certainly things I wouldn't give back.
Yeah.
As a result of my, like, I learned a lot about gratitude, a lot about relationships and the human experience. And some of the perspective shifts have been monumental. I learned about identity, like what makes me, me, and not what I thought used to define me. Right. Things like that, which I certainly wouldn't give back. I miss, of course, the physical abilities I used to have. And had I not had the accident, I probably would have got to some of those perspective shifts in life, because everybody goes through hardship. Everybody has challenges, and nobody will live a full life without experiencing grief. Because if you live a life without grief, it means you've lived a life without love. You've lived a life without passion. And anybody who's involved in sport knows that passion fuels sport. It's the fuel on the fire of what gets going when you're on the ice and when you're in a game scenario, like the competition, that love for it, that is incredible. And there's balance and everything. So for every high, there's got to be a low, because otherwise, if we didn't have that disparity or that contrast, you wouldn't have the perspective to appreciate the highs.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you're ever feeling low, it's because you know what it feels like to be on top. And I always used to like the peaks and valleys metaphor, because dark valley bottoms are accompanied by high, bright mountain peaks, and there's balance. And when I found myself in the bottom, I just had to trust and hope that I knew I was capable of getting back to the top. And it might not even be the same mountain peak, right? And it wasn't for me, because those athletic abilities, they're not the same anymore. So I just chose a new mountain, got into public speaking, started a company, Head Start Pro, like wrote this is my most recent one. But
Yeah, let's talk. Well, yeah, let's talk about that since you brought it up. I mean, now, yeah, published author now, which is super cool and just recently released, um, and essentially telling the story of a little bit what we're talking about now, correct? And that journey through that. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, the
Hold it up there again. Let's
What's
get a
that?
good look at it. Hold it up there again. Never part of the plan. Yeah, I'm definitely going to share that within the group too, and we'll get a link to that because yeah, we will do that. It needs to be published out there.
Yeah, thank you. It's crazy. I never would have thought of like that I would be an author. Just wasn't it wasn't part of the plan initially, but then once I set my sight on it, I was like, that is a goal I really want to achieve. But the book's called Never Part of the Plan, and it's a story of courage, resilience, and gratitude. And it's a story, but it's a bit of a roadmap for how I overcame my adversity and got back to life and back to sport and running and skiing and you name it. But it's really for the reader so that I can help you reach your full potential. How we handle adversity, the challenges that are posed. If we want to go from just surviving to thriving, we've got to learn to manage adversity. We've got to learn to overcome, be more resilient. And part of it is about resilience, but then how do you use some of those tools, like some of the mindset tools that I learned through sport to achieve your potential? Because ultimately that's what we want. There's a baseline and then there's above. And like sometimes we feel like we're way below the baseline. How do we get back there? But how do we keep going, keep using those same mindset, mental training tools to get to that next level? And it's all about story. It's all a story about how I got to where I am now. And it's crazy. I feel so vulnerable putting it out there. I told stories in the book that I've not shared with like almost anybody, but then I wrote it for the whole world to read potentially. It's pretty wild having it out there.
I believe it. Yeah, that would be a bearing of the soul, and I guess that's part of it, though. Maybe there's a little bit of therapy in that too, like sharing what's so near and dear to you, and sharing that with the world, like you said, in hopes that it helps somebody, right? That you're able to help somebody, and that's kind of what it's really. I mean, and isn't that part of being human? Is doing that, of being able to provide maybe someone to collapse a time frame, or to have a little easier road, or to be able to figure out something on their own. Like, man, like what a respected thing to do, so good for you, because that's not an easy task, man. Like I think there's a lot of us that are listening that can relate. Oh yeah, I should write a book, or I will. I mean, it's we have that spark, but to actually get it done, and to have something you can put in front of you, and have something that's relevant, and that people want to read, is like such a cool feat. So I mean, congratulations on that.
Thank you. It feels a bit surreal that it's like that I can actually put it in my hand and hold it. Like it's a lot. It's my life. Like it's wild. But
Yeah.
you said something a second ago that resonated pretty well. And because I dedicated the book to the reader. It is for you if you choose to read it. And that you will not feel helpless if you're being helpful. You'll not be helpful. And for me, like, well, I know that if I can take my experience, because it hasn't been easy. It's been one of the hardest roads. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but if I can help somebody else make their road a little bit easier, that's like, it means the world to me. I'll be fulfilled. I'll live, forever happy.
Right. No, that's wild. Yeah, I just keep listening to your thoughts there. I mean, the other three of the core four, because you mentioned another one now. It's amazing. Every time we talk, like I just feel us getting more like connected. Like it's so crazy. Because my core four is one, that you get to choose the meaning, right? So I told you about that. You get to choose the meaning of the event. Two is that the universe is friendly or neutral. Just assume that it's not hostile. right? So like again, like that event for you, like I just keep thinking about that event. Like there's so many people that could automatically go into that. Well, why me? Right? Like this is not a friendly place. This is the world's out to get me, right? And put you on that other side of the fence. And then the other one is there's always an opportunity. Every time there's an opportunity, right? And the other one is there's a solution for everything. So like if those four tenets, right? Like if those four beliefs can if we can work on those and consciously think about them, and that's really the cornerstones of how I start with all my clients, and is really working on those which seem unhockey related, right? Like that's the beauty of this whole thing. It's like those are life skills I say all the time. And these are things that you're going to be able to use. You don't even know when you're going to be able to use them. But if you can close the gap on getting away from feeling like a victim, feeling like you're out of control, feeling like the world's against you and this is happening to me and not for me, you're still in power, right? And you're still in a place of control, and you're still in a place where you can make a difference and get better, right? So I just hearing that story, it's like, my God, like it's like this is you are what I talk about all the time. I mean, you're an example of it. Like it's so wild. I
like your there's a solution for everything. And I'll tell you what I think that means, and you can tell me if I'm on the mark or off the mark. But I like optimism big time. You've got to be able to, you got to see success, and you've got to be like leaning that way anyway. Possibility mindset, growth mindset, that type of stuff. But I don't like the fluffy kind of optimism, the blissful optimism. It's got to be real optimism. It's got to be authentic. And I choose, like, I got some tools that in my bag, like one of them is gratitude, which I know we're going to talk about again, because gratitude is a big thing for me. But like gratitude is authentic. And so everybody has a negativity bias. Our brains are just wired to think negatively, like 6 to 9 times more negative thoughts than positive ones. And we have more of them. And the scary part is those thoughts are 4 to 7 times more. And the data shows I'll not try to quote it right now. I love giving credit where it's due, but it's been a while since I've looked this up. Who's the guy? I'll find it. We can put it in the notes. But you're 4 to 7 times more likely to materialize a negative thought than you are a positive thought. So when you think about that, it means you need to have 4 to 7 positive thoughts to outweigh the one negative one. And if you say it out loud to yourself, it's like a 10 times multiplier. It's 40 to 70 times more likely to materialize if you say your negative thought out loud. And it might be a belief about yourself. It might be like what you think the potential outcome of the game is going to be. But as soon as you're priming yourself for that, your brain for that, it's more likely to happen. So when I say real optimism, like not that blissful fluff stuff, it's got to be like real. And you can be more real if you focus on gratitude's authentic. It's a positive thought. And as soon as you show up to a game and you say like, I am so thankful to be playing hockey right now, it changes your physiology completely. And then if you bridge from there to, and I'm going to play my damnedest today, we're going to win. Like go there. And like, it's got, I mean, if you're playing a team that's 1,000 times better than you are, and you're going to play with heart, it's like, that might be the goal, but that's the positive goal. It's like, I'm going to show up today. I'm going to play my personal best that I can against this team. Cause if you just show up and go like, I'm going to win, when you know that, I mean, like, I don't know a good example, but you know where I'm going. It's like, if you say I'm going to win the lottery, or I'm going to grow another 6 inches today, like it's just not realistic, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. But coming back to realism and the negativity bias, like our negative thoughts are powerful. And instead of trying to avoid them completely, it's looking through a neutral lens. And this, I mean, it's bridging the gap to choosing your meaning. But if you have a thought that comes into your mind and it could be construed as negative, process the thought as a non-biased, neutral lens. So it's like the difference between showing up today and being like, I didn't sleep well last night. That's neutral. That's just a statement. If you go, and I'm probably going to play like crap today, because of it, strong negativity bias. But if you show up fatigued and you go, all right, I'm tired today, I'm really going to have to bring it mentally. That's a big shift. And then it takes you to a positive space where you've got you've got an opportunity for realistic or realism and optimism, realistic optimism at that point. Does that make sense?
Oh, 1,000%. No, I love that. I mean, that's a great example. And as you're saying that, I'm just listening. I'm listening like to my tenets in my own head, right? Like the meaning. Like, what is the meaning of that? The meaning is either you give the meaning that, yeah, I'm going to play crap, like you said, I didn't sleep well, and therefore I'm not going to play well. Or it can be, I didn't play well. Now here's the opportunity for me to see what I'm made of in this scenario, right? And the opportunity is to see how mentally sharp I can be in this game, how much more I can work on my focus, right? So the solution is to turn up the mental game when maybe you don't have it quite where you want to have physically, right? Like I just see it again and again and again when we can close that gap on these things and we get to choose the meaning and what we're focusing on. It's like, it's awesome. And I love what you're talking about, gratitude. Like, I love it. I love it. I love it. And even from one of our small conversations that we had a few months ago, one of my clients was going to a junior camp. So he was a major midget, right? Had never played yet in a junior A game before, and he got called up to a practice with these guys that he didn't know. So of course, I mean, what emotions is he having, right? He's nervous and he's excited and he's a bit anxious and these other things. And we talked for a while about gratitude and just saying, like, when you're sitting in there and you're nervous or you're anxious, if you can just be thankful that you're in that room, right? Be thankful that you have this opportunity and really focus on that. Again, that's not fluffy. That's real, right? You have this chance that you've never had before. So instead of being anxious or nervous about how you're going to perform, be thankful that you're there and be thankful you're going to maybe be able to see how you're going to perform on the ice. Like, even be curious about it, right? Like that way to use gratitude. And, I learned that from you, is to be able to, and I hope I communicated that well to him. It seemed to work for him. He said he used it great in the locker room. He said it really helped him manage his nerves. So, I mean, I was like, yes, like, that's so cool. And what a great emotion that is, gratitude.
It's so powerful, and the best athletes in the world use it. Everybody has gratitude. It's innate. Everybody's been thankful before. Everybody has said thank you before. It's part of our being, but you can use it intentionally, and the best athletes in the world do. And you think about it like showing up to, whether or not it's the rink, the court, the soccer field, the mountain, and you show up and you have this moment of just like sincere appreciation to be out there. I remember when I was young and I had come back from a couple of my initial injuries and I was skiing well and I was healthy, I would take stock and say, because in skiing, every day on the mountain, especially freestyle skiing, every day on the mountain could be your last day of the season if you crash hard enough that you get hurt. And so when I was healthy, I would feel gratitude for it. And the best in the world do it, because Tiger Woods, here's a great example. Tiger Woods won the 2019 Masters tournament and he wore the green jacket. And in his post-win interview, he's telling the reporter about how he's just lucky to be playing. He'd overcome a back injury from a car accident, and he accomplished what's arguably one of the, if not the greatest comeback in all of sports history to win a championship match, to win a championship game. And he says that he's just happy to be playing. He's just thankful to be out there on the course. And gratitude is ingrained in his game. It's wild, because every bad shot, every misplay, every shooting opportunity or passing opportunity that gets missed, like, doesn't matter if you're just lucky to be playing hockey.
Right.
If you're just out there and you can feel it, it changes your physiological state. It lifts you up. It takes like the pressure off your chest, everything, because the baseline is positivity and it's authentic. Remember that. Like, gratitude is always authentic, because when you feel it and you feel the gratitude for playing a game that you love to play, even if it's not going your way that day, a good day on the ice is a good day, or even a bad day on the ice is a good day, I should say.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I find that interesting too. I'd love to have a conversation with Tagger about that because I can relate to that with hockey. That for sure there were times where I took it for granted. Countless times I took it for granted, right? Like where I was playing, that I was getting paid to play it, like finding reasons to complain. And then something will happen, like an injury, right? And an injury will bring you back real quick because now you're thinking of all those times you played and you were healthy, right? And maybe you didn't prepare the way you should, and maybe you weren't ready for the game, and maybe you didn't give it your all. And then you have to deal with this injury and overcoming these injuries, and then you get back on the ice, and it's always like for me, there was always this packet of time where it was like you'd be on because I was so grateful, right? But then it faded, and then you'd kind of forget about it, and then you get back to complacency again. And that's one of the things that I talk about now, or try to, is like ingrain a gratitude practice. And I consciously do that now at night and stuff, and like try and implement these things here and there, because I do think, and for everyone listening right now, like this is like, so we're talking about like my core four, and we're talking about gratitude and how good these things are. And there's not one person who will say there, no, that's BS. That doesn't work, right? Like everyone usually resonates with this. Yeah, right? But if we just listen to this interview and then we turn it off and we go back to normal life and we don't actually put some type of plan into place, it doesn't work and it doesn't matter. And that's the thing that, like, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's the thing is, like, I just got to beat that home all the time, is like the reps matter. The repetition matters. Where you put your focus matters, right? Like, or else it's just reading a book and you put it away. It's like every other book on the shelf, right? You got to use the book, you got to use the stuff. So you have to have a plan for it. So I don't know. I get passionate about that because it's like, when I talk with my clients, it's like we talk about the same thing sometimes for like 5-6 sessions in a row because you have to. You know what I mean? Like you need to. So, anyways, I don't know how you feel about all that, but like, how do you incorporate gratitude into your life, into your daily habits?
Performance falls back on preparation, and preparation is how you practice. And so what you're saying is like, you need the reps, you need the time, you need the mileage. So you need to practice over and over again. It's the same thing where you practice a snapshot over and over and over again until you got it. It's there when you need it, because in real time, in gameplay, you don't have time to think about it. And as soon as the game starts, you don't have any more time for practice either. The skill set you start the game with is what you've got. It's one of the reasons why I say mental training is so important, and the difference maker for successful athletes and successful teams and coaches is because when the game starts, you don't have any more time for practice. And if you haven't practiced, you won't have the skill when you need it most. So practice becomes important. And you were talking about a gratitude practice, whether or not it's like intentional mindfulness in the morning or at night, like in the morning, thinking about journaling, a couple things you're thankful for, or maybe it's at night, just taking stock. I like, especially on the days that you have a bad day, maybe it was a bad game, bad performance, or maybe you're just not feeling, as good as you normally do when you go to bed that night. Think intentionally about 10 things that you have to feel thankful for. 10 things will change your physiology. If you could feel that kind of gratitude, it literally lifts you out. I would do the mindfulness exercise with you on here, but maybe we'll save that for another time. But just trust me on that one, because I know it changes your physiology. So you actually move to a different state. And if any of the parents or the adults out there listening to this, because I think that's a big part of your audience, but if you ever have one of those nights where you can't sleep, your mind is racing, you've got stressors, financial, relationship, whatever, maybe it was something just didn't go your way that day, didn't get the sale, whatever it is, we can hold on to that, or you can be intentional with what you think about and think about the wins. I like saying taking stock of the wins and feeling grateful for the things that went well just in your day. That has such huge implications for your physical state and your mindset. And then try it. If you can't sleep, you might just drift off to sleep after. Right. Put good energy into your system. But for any kid or any athlete, any coach, practicing when we talk about it, it's not hard, but it does take a bit of discipline. Motivation doesn't cut it. Discipline beats out motivation 10 times out of 10 because motivation's fickle, it wanes. Some days we just don't feel like it. But if you're disciplined and you've developed a habit in your practice, then you'll reap the benefits for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Geez, just so crazy. Like listening to you is like I'm being so engrossed, and that's why sometimes I have to take notes because I forget about what it is I want to touch on or where we want to go. But yeah, I mean the gratitude has been, I would say for me personally, something that isn't innate in me, and I'm not proud to say that, right? I mean, I've definitely learned in the last probably 2 or 3 years to make it more of a part of my day and to really take stock, like you say, when you're around. And like me looking out the window right now, it's like gorgeous. It's like being grateful for that, is like, it's really powerful. It puts you in a different, and like you said, that your physiology changes. I think your emotional context and way to deal with things changes. And that's as an adult not playing hockey anymore, right? And when we use this as a high performance tool on the ice before a game with our training, all these different ideas of where we can use it, man, it really does give you that big edge that you're talking about. It is an edge. It's an edge on life, and it's an edge in sport for sure. And maybe we should talk about Head Start Pro just quickly, because I know I knew this was going to happen. We could talk for 3 hours because there's so many commonalities and so many touch points. And you've been on stages and you've developed workshops and you've done all these things that are all relevant in here. But Head Start Pro is one that I know near and dear, and because I've used it myself. I've took the course. I've used it with my team successfully, I might add. And yeah, why don't you tell just us a little bit of what Head Start Pro means to you and what it is that you're teaching there for people?
Yeah, thank you. It's funny that the gratitude's even helped me in business and life. And the the opportunity arose a few years ago to take a highly successful injury prevention training program and customize it for athletes. And so Head Start Pro is a performance training program. It's practical mental training tools and techniques that are delivered online. So we've got an online class. There's never been a more important time for kids to learn mental game. And fortunately, we've got it in a virtual package, which is pretty sweet. You can check it out after. But the gist is, like, I started with the program because I found that I thought I could prevent accidents like mine from happening to other kids. There was a huge injury prevention application for it. And what we were doing was helping kids recognize their states. We've talked about a couple of them in this. You mentioned complacency, where your mind wanders off, or you've done something so many times that you're overly comfortable with it, so you're just not thinking. But being in a rush, being frustrated and angry, being tired, those 4 states compromise our ability to make decisions, and they put us at risk for having injuries. Those states also are responsible for like 95% of our performance errors. The times we just screw up and it didn't cost us an injury, but it maybe cost us a goal or the game or even the play, like just those breakdowns, because you're not in control of your state. So we teach kids personal awareness, focus, attention control strategies so they can get the most out of how they play, and hopefully we'll prevent injuries at the same time.
Right. It was amazing. We use that a lot in the room, and I think the way you broke it down was great for all age groups. And I mean, I was coaching 9 and 10-year-olds last year, and could pretty much use it verbatim. I did a couple tweaks, and we even talked about it, right? Like how I could use it with my own language a little bit, and we changed some of it to kind of a redhead, bluehead, and use some from the language from the legacy, right? And it was like it was part of our culture. It really was. I mean, like and it's one of those things too, right? It's not one of those things where we can just bring it up in one dressing room discussion and then not talk about it ever again. It doesn't work. Right. But if we kept hitting it, we talked about blue heads all year, that this was actually our advantage, right, over other teams, that we were able to keep our focus. We were able not to get frustrated. We were able to stay composed. Like it became part of who we were as a team. And so, yeah, we hit it again and again and again. Thankfully, we didn't have any injuries either. So it was helpful. It was helpful there, nothing serious. And I think it made us a better, stronger team, a better, stronger unit. Gave us something to galvanize around. So for everyone listening out there, it is available online. There's been some great associations, like BC Hockey for one, has got behind it and is promoting it. And it's I think it's a valuable resource for parents for sure, and coaches for sure, and players as well. So we'll put that in the notes too, like where to find Head Start Pro for you, Mike. But that's something that you guys should be proud of, and I know you are.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was coaching, we didn't have a lot of money in freestyle skiing at the time. So my IST budget was really low, and I couldn't hire a sports psychology expert. And when we did, we'd have them in for like little one-off touches, and we didn't get that process that was ongoing. So we did that. We built a coaches training program, or a coaching course, and an athlete course, and made it for young up and comers that don't necessarily get access to higher level mental game, but it's a mental training approach that anybody can, coaches can take the course, learn it, integrate it in the culture. It's awesome. So yeah, really stoked. Thanks for letting us feature that here.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it's so relevant to the content that we talk about in this group on a daily basis. So, it's anything we do to support you, but it's also super relevant to the people here, and that's why I love bringing people in like yourself. Another voice, in here talking about some really cool things that can help these athletes become better. Which I think, I did promise that we'd keep it to under an hour, which we're close to now. I will mention that. Stacy Donison, she's really active in the community here in Vernon, and one of the people looking placing some of the Viper players, is involved in the building coordination and is involved in hockey. Her son's a goaltender. Great lady. She says you can learn how to be grateful, absolutely. And in my opinion, if you haven't been given everything as a child, most of our generation, she says, you can more easily be grateful for the things in your life. And one of the many reasons we've chosen not to give our son everything he wants. So I think that's a pretty good insight because yeah, I was an only child too, with upper class parents, or my dad had enough money to get me what I wanted and supported me. And that might've been maybe part of my inability to be truly grateful in moments, or less apt to see that, and had to kind of find that later in life on a more more mature perspective. But, yeah, I think you probably would. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I love your vulnerability there too. Like, it's good personal awareness. And what she's saying is, like, you can learn it, practice it. You don't have to go through a severe trauma. And I encourage everybody to try to avoid it at all costs. You don't need to go to that to learn about gratitude, I promise you, but you can learn it with some intentional practice, and it can be part of it becomes your default pattern. Like, yeah. You don't go fall back to the negative. You fall to the positive. It's really cool. And
that's the key. That's with the reps again too, right? Of like the focus on this. And it's like, sometimes people will come talk to me and say, yeah, well, I want to book a session, or I want to do whatever. And it's like, of course I want to help. And sometimes, that little thing can help. But like, for the most part, like what I talk about is like, we need to continue, right? We have to have the reps, because that's where the coaching aspect comes in. Because when you leave, you're supposed to be trying something out, and then you come back and how did it go? Right. And we got to try it again. How did it go? Try it again. How did it go? Because it wants to be default. Like you said, it needs to be default. It's got to be automatic. It's got to be accessible, right? Really accessible and really there. And that's when it becomes powerful. Yeah, and like you're saying, with gratitude, that's it. You need to practice that if you want it to be your default. Got to practice it.
And the next time we get together, we'll talk about some of those techniques.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, which brings us, because I wanted to do the cool announcement. So last time, I'll just bring it in here, that we had on Cal Benazik a little while ago, and we talked about visualization, and he's been teaching it for 10 years, and Cal has agreed to come in and do the first masterclass, which I did announce a little while ago. So he's going to walk the guys through a masterclass workshop on how to really set themselves up and really understand how to use visualization, how to use it as a high performance tool. So I'm super excited about that. And the real announcement here was that Mr. Mike Shaw has agreed to come in and put together a masterclass for for this group specifically on the benefits. Well, let's use it, but the benefits of gratitude for high performance, and how to use it in the sport of hockey. So maybe just touch on that a little bit and tell us what we can expect.
We've already talked about so many of the benefits of gratitude, but it's powerful. It's powerful for perspective and framing, gifts. Like I talked about how you show up each and every day, but effort too. There's a correlation between gratitude and effort. You're much more likely to give your full effort when you know how lucky you are to be playing. And resilience as well is, I think, probably the most powerful application of gratitude is with developing resilience and framing setbacks in the grand scheme of things, and understanding that things just aren't that bad, and how you pick yourself up and keep going in those moments. And what I learned in my experience was that gratitude was the most powerful for me when I got out of bed on the wrong side of the bed. Happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But it hit me every single time because I was like, at least I'm getting out of bed. Total game changer. And we'll talk about some techniques for how to apply it and practice it and get good at it so that it becomes the default, so that you'll reach your potential. You'll have more fun doing it. You'll live a happier life. You probably go farther in your sporting career too, or your son and daughter's sporting career. We'll see. The benefits are huge. So it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. No, I'm so excited. That's going to be great. Really, really excited to be having these masterclass get started. We're probably going to be rolling them out starting in August. Here is when we'll be pressing the play button. And we've talked to Mike about maybe having something ready for September or October. So that'll probably be number 2 or 3 on the list of masterclasses. So that'll be unbelievable. I can't wait to take it myself and be a part of it. And so thanks you so much for being here again. I know your time, it's your greatest resource, and for you to agree to come here and share that story with us and what gratitude means, and have a chance to discuss all these little cool nuances that philosophical nuances that we seem to agree on is amazing for everyone here.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm super, super glad to be connected with your people too. So awesome. Everyone out there, thanks for staying with us.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, awesome interview, somebody says, and there's a few people on. We had lots of hearts and some thumbs up. So I know that people are going to be watching this after, which is the case a lot of times. There's, like I said, there's people from all over the place. Not everybody can tune in live, so we get a lot of views on these after, and I know there's going to be a lot of great feedback because I love what you have to say, and again, your story is just so great. And if you haven't seen that Red Bull doc, watch it. The Healing Agent and the book. Hold it up again one more time here. Check this one out. We're going to put a link in there. Never Part of the Plan.
You can find me and all this stuff through my website. My website's just www.mikeshawski.com. So all one word, mikeshawski.com.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, for me, you just broke up there. So it's mikeshawski.com, right?
Yeah, thank you. Mike Shawski, all one word.
MikeShawski.com. Awesome, man. As always, great chatting. We'll end the live broadcast here. You and I will go back into the studio, and we can download a little bit. But for everyone else here, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. That was great. Thank you. Great stuff. So yeah, thanks so much, Mike, for doing it. And we'll have more of you in here in the group now that we've introduced you. So excited to bring you back.
Cool. My pleasure. And thank you.
Cheers. And